want to welcome you to the show, Tyler. Appreciate you coming on.
No, thanks for having me, brother. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a unique origin story in or perhaps not so unique, but in our meeting, my buddy sent me your page, checked you out, gave you a follow, and you did something that nobody has ever really done to me, which I found immediately welcoming, I guess, receptive. You reached out to me and said, "Hey, thanks for following." I said, "Oh crap, this guy is obviously receptive and willing to connect." So I got on a call with you. You were gracious enough to get on, and you shared some really valuable insights, which I want to thank you for right off the bat. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Yeah, man, it's not a problem at all. That's just when you're trying to build a business or a brand or really anything, I feel like it's important to build relationships. So I try to make it a point to do that for the majority of people that follow me online or say something like, I want to answer DMs. I'm not big time, dude. I'm just a dude, right? And just like anybody else. So just trying to make it like everyone. So yeah, you're welcome. But I enjoyed it. I'm glad I did.
And I got to go ahead and tell you, you spoke about, I'd been sending DMs to try to get podcast guests on, which had been relatively high hit rate. Like it was pretty successful, but you said take it a step further and send a video. And I did that to a guy here in Austin, not for the podcast, but just to meet up. He's a pretty big guy on Twitter, has a really successful podcast as well, and sent him a video, and we're getting coffee on Saturday. So 1 for 1 on that, man.
Yeah, I don't really know. Like this guy had approached me wanting me to come on his podcast like last winter. And that's what he did. He sent me a video and I was like, I can't help but just love this guy. Like this guy's awesome. He was very polite and just really cool. I was like, I'm going to fucking steal this. I'm going to start doing this. Can I curse on here?
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay, good. But yeah, I'm going to start stealing his tactics. So that's how I usually get my guests. I send them a video, and if they like what they hear, then usually it plays out pretty well. So
yeah, I saw you put something up recently on Instagram about, might have been while you were running or something, or no, it was a little clip about how you've been turned down hundreds of times, and I think that's
easily, yeah,
which is awesome. That's part of it, man. It's like how quickly can you get the first 100 no's?
Yeah, dude, the no's are fun because like the way that I look at it is I'm always thinking they're gonna be bummed that they said no one day. I don't know if that is necessarily going to be true, but that's the way that I look at it. So the more no's, the better. I only need a couple of yeses, right? Like you only have to get lucky one time. And I've been lucky 100 and some odd times. So we're doing pretty okay.
Yeah, that actually leads into my next comment that I wanted to get out of the way right off the rip, man. Firstly, congrats on 100. That's as a young novice podcaster, that's a number that I look at with like, oh my gosh, man, I can't wait to get there. And that's like my next goal. That's my next milestone. So congrats on that. You're like top 0.5 of a 0.5% probably.
Yeah, thanks. It's, that never really was the goal. I think we touched on that last time we spoke. It never really was the goal. It just kind of happened via consistency and just putting the pieces together, man. And it's getting tough though. Like I'd be lying to you. It's Wednesday. My podcast episodes drop on Monday. I got fuck all for Monday. Like usually I try to book out like a month in advance, but it's just one thing after another over here, dude. And people are, they're just busy, and I understand it. And I don't just want anybody, right? Like I want to be interested by the person that I want to come on the show. If I don't find you interesting, I'm probably not going to send you an invite. So I just need to find more interesting people, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's another beauty of social media. That's like, I think one of the, if not the best benefit of utilizing it as a tool. And I think it was actually the initial goal of it was to help people connect, like with Facebook and whatnot. It's kind of turned into a whole different monster. But what I've been really focusing on, and it sounds like you as well, actually it's evidenced by our conversation right now and how we met, using it as a tool to connect with people that I'm interested in, right? It just makes everything, it gives you a broader audience to tap into, and a larger amount of people that are available at your disposal.
Are you talking about the benefits of social media? Sorry, you cut out for a sec.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry about
yep. That. No, it does, man. And you just got to be careful. There's a fine line that I think you need to be able to walk. You can go off the deep end really quickly. And if you're fucking off on the internet, looking at the wrong stuff or following the wrong people, your whole, like every time you pull up the app, it's just going to be filled with garbage. So I try to like keep everything very clean and follow the right folks so I get more of those people on my page. If that makes any sense. I don't really understand the algorithms and shit, but yeah, it can be toxic at times, but the way that you and I utilize it, it's very helpful, and I appreciate that aspect of it for sure.
Absolutely. The algorithm is a fickle mistress, man. It's it's like
Yeah.
you like one post that's not really in line with what you want to see, you get like 50 distractions going everywhere. But
Mhm.
it's definitely an interesting thing to navigate, and it's a tool like anything else, in my opinion. That's how I've changed my perspective on it. So it's like, how do you use the tool optimally? And speaking on your podcast again, Knock Performance, 100 episodes deep. I listened back to the first episode, and you and I spoke
Yeah.
uh, about that when we talked. Man, the little pocket recorder. I remember in the intro, I think you even said like, "Sorry guys, you can hear me breathing for the first 10 minutes or whatever." And I just got, dude, I find that so awesome. Like I really
Yeah.
do. One of the things that helped me kind of start mine and change my my perception of what I need to do to start was watch Joe Rogan's first episode, watch Chris Williamson's first episode. All these guys, they're horrible.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying yours was horrible. It's like it's still a good interview. It's still a good conversation. But just to see where you are now interviewing guys like Jack Carr and Dan from Elk Shape. I mean, how does that feel to go from a pocket recorder where you can hear yourself breathing to dudes like that?
I don't know. It's so weird because when you're doing it, you think that like, oh, this is the shit. Like this is really good stuff, right? And that's how I felt apart from like the nose breathing for like the first 15 minutes of that episode. I was like, other than that, like it sounds pretty good, man. Like this is legit. Maybe some people will listen. And at the time I was doing the podcast with another guy and we didn't give a shit if anybody listened to it or not. And then we kind of went our separate ways and I rebranded the show and kept going with it. And things just started happening. I don't know, like I just tried to make it a little bit better every day, like maybe upgrade a piece of equipment or do something down here in the studio or try to get a set guest. And the pieces just they just stack on top of each other when you try to do the right thing every day. You know, weeks turn into months, months turn into to years type of deal. And I don't know. I don't really look at the people that I've interviewed as like, holy shit. Besides the Jack Carr one, that one was kind of cool. Like I have no business fucking interviewing that guy. That one was really cool. But everybody else, man, they're just dudes. They're just guys, and just like me and you. But the Jack Carr one was kind of cool. I got really lucky on that one.
Yeah, talk me through that. So, I mean, for anybody that's listening that doesn't know who Jack Carr is, he's probably top two or three fiction writers in the country right now, if not number one, with all the Terminal List and what's his Only the Dead,
Mhm.
all that stuff. I mean, he's got number one after number one, and I apologize for that right there.
No, you're good.
But yeah, what was that like with interviewing him?
I kind of made it pretty well known, like my top 5 people that I wanted to talk to. And I think one of my good friends knew a guy who just got in contact with his publisher, and that's how they ended up booking the podcast. And he's like, hey, here's the publisher's information. Send him an email, tell him that you want to, you know, market his book for the new release, blah blah blah. It's a long shot, but go for it. So I constructed a really nice email to the publisher, seeing if they'd like to have Jack come on. They're like, yep, we'll give you 30 minutes this time and date. Are you in? And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm in, of course. It was like a month out. So it just kind of happened. I got really lucky, but I kind of like spoke it into existence, if that makes sense. Like nobody's going to know what your goals are if you don't fucking put them out there. And I keep a lot of shit close to the chest in my life, but for dumb stuff like a podcast, I'm like, hey, this is who I want to interview. Does anybody know this guy? Does anybody know how to get a hold of this guy? Give me an email, a phone number, anything. And it just happened, and it happened relatively quickly. And he was really cool. Like I said, I don't feel like I have very much business interviewing somebody that's been on Joe Rogan multiple times, but I'll take it. It was really cool and very fortunate.
Once again, sorry, there's a guy using an angle grinder out here, so I apologize for that. But the thing to me, this is why I kind of wanted to go back to your first episode,
Mhm.
is to see that dichotomy. First off, your skill development, like in the conversation, as a conversationalist, as an interviewer, the quality of the podcast, and to just see, for me, like I'm at 20. This is going to be my 26th recording, so I'm not even close to where you are. I'm a quarter of the way, but I just did you ever have a moment, like, after that where you're like where you thought back to that first 1 or 2 episodes and like, "Oh, wow, this is actually becoming something? Like, this is something that I can, like, look back on and be really proud of?"
Dude, I didn't even so I think it was like I remember the podcast that I recorded and I went upstairs to my wife and I was like, "Holy fuck, like I think I'm getting good at this." Like everything just went like perfect. I had honestly no notes, but every question I already had queued up like in the back of my mind as you were talking, and I had the next one lined up, and I had like four more after that lined up, and everything flowed great. And the guest was like, "Man, your audio sounds awesome, this, that, and the other." I was like, "Man, things are really coming together." And that was episode 80, dude.
Wow.
Yeah, that was only 20 episodes ago. So it wasn't until like episode 80 where I was like, "Man, I think I'm kind of figuring this thing out just a little bit." Like, there's no dead air, just, like a really good conversation. Having a good conversation is an art form. People can say what they want, and I'm probably butchering the hell out of it right now, but it is what it is. But like, you have to be able to carry it on in a way where it's not awkward. There's not any dead space. You need to be able to laugh, make fun, but be serious, and just feel out and take the temperature of the room or the guest. And it took me like 80 conversations just to feel like, hey, you might be making some way here. Like, you might be doing something.
Yeah, and there's that old we spoke about this a little bit as well. There's I think 90% of podcasts don't make it past 3 episodes, and so it's sort of that you said 80 episodes in, and
Yeah.
people are looking for success or some sort of positive affirmation after 3 episodes, and it's just not gonna happen, right? Like, that's just
Hmm.
not how the world works.
Well, it's
Between
fun.
episodes
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, no, no. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Between episode 0 and or 0, I guess, episode 1 and that episode where you said, "Holy shit, I think I'm getting good at this," I'm almost certain, I don't know, like, your perspective exactly, but I would assume that there was a time where you're kind of maybe some dog days where you're like, "Oh, shit," like, kinda right in the middle, you're like, "Well, I've done this many episodes, but it's not really I'm not seeing that positive feedback that I want, or I'm not getting this result." Were there any dog days? And if there were, what did you use to keep going? Like, what did you use to keep pushing towards that 80th episode?
There still is, bro. Like, I don't think the podcast is as popular or where it needs to be as where I like think it should be right now. Like, I think my show should be probably way bigger. But I also thought that 60, 70, 80 episodes ago, right? So I'm always thinking that. And I don't think no matter how big it gets or how many people listen or how big it grows, blah, 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 I don't think I'm ever going to be like, "Yeah, we're good here. We made it." It's like fitness.
Yeah.
Like, you can always get better. Like, you're never like, "Damn, I'm in really good shape." Well, yeah, you're in really good shape, but you can always get in better shape, kind of thing. And same thing with the show. Yeah, there's been so many dog days where like I'm not going to tell you. And if anybody listening to this wants to go back through 100 odd episodes and try to figure out what episode I'm referring to, I'll give you something. I'll set you up with something. I promise. I'll take care of you. But I had an episode where my guest's audio was just absolutely perfect, amazing. Okay, mine got completely destroyed. It recorded off of like my laptop opposed
Mhm.
to my microphone, and I just simply wasn't going to have that. So I ended up putting my audio that was broken into like a subtitle, like transformer type deal. So it just gave me the whole narrative of what I said. And then
Mhm.
I re recorded it and plugged and played it into the podcast where you'd be like, "Hey, what day is it?" And I'd be like, "It's Sunday." But I'd redo that. And dude, it was so embarrassing. I think it turned out pretty good. And I can't tell you what episode it is because that person's going to be like, "Dude, what the fuck?" But um, I
Oh, 'cause
recorded
they don't even know?
no, I recorded all of my audio, and it took me like 4 hours to do one morning. It was just like an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, but that's
Nightmare, dude.
that's that's the stuff that nobody knows or nobody thinks of, and also the fact that whatever guest it was doesn't know,
Yeah.
he doesn't even or she doesn't even know that they appreciate it, because that shows that, like, how much you're invested in that podcast with them, right? It's not just like, "Oh, fuck, it's just this person, so I'm just gonna leave it that." Like, that they took time out of their lives to invest into you and into your podcast. So I think it's only fair that you invest the same, and it sounds like you did. I think that's pretty cool.
I had to, man, but there was awkward moments where I'm like downstairs right where I'm at now. I'm playing their audio and I'm reading the transcript of what I'm supposed to say next. Keep in mind, I've already said everything. We've already had the conversation, but I'm like, okay, I laughed the first time. Like, I should probably try to laugh again. So I'm like, dude, it was so weird. Dog.
Yeah, I can imagine how awkward that would be for you to like re-listen. Have you re-listened to it at all?
No, not not besides when I was editing it. I was editing it and then I was like re-listening to it as I was doing it, and then I posted it and I've never clicked on it again, and I just can't bring myself to do it.
Yeah, I mean, let's maybe episode 1,000. That's when you say, "Hey guys,
No kidding.
this is the one that I was talking about." But so it started off Montana Knox, correct?
Yeah, yep.
Which was predominantly hunting.
Yeah, pretty much all of it, bro. Yeah.
How did it? How did you? What did you rebrand into? Like, so now it's Nock Performance. It's more of like I would say a lifestyle brand. Hunting is
Yeah,
obviously a big part of it because that's a big part of who you are. But what was the rebrand like?
I was having a conversation with my buddy and I was realizing that, the podcast can do things. I mean, you put 40, 50 some odd episodes together and you don't miss a week, like it's important to me. I like doing it. I like doing it and I want to see it do as good as it can. I didn't care about that at the beginning. I was like, hey, let's just do this podcast. And if anybody listens, cool. If not, it's a fun way for us to just hang out. Well, then it got to be just me. And I'm like, well, I'm going to fucking take this thing to the moon if I can. Why not? Like, let's see what I can do with it. Um, so it was just really important for me to just stick with it. But I wanted a wider range of folks to talk to, right? And hunting gets old. It's like, oh wow, you killed an elk. That story gets old after a while because the next guy killed an elk, and then you hear his war story and blah 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 blah. I like talking about all different types of things with all different types of people. Like talking about business. Like you said, it's more of a lifestyle show. I'm really into fitness, health, eating, um, mindset stuff. I'm into all of that, and I want to be able to talk to people that know more about those said fields than I do. So, and then when you really categorize something like Montana, whatever, it makes it feel like, oh, this is just for people from Montana, or like, I hit somebody up from Rhode Island and I'm like, hey, do you want to come on the Montana podcast? And like, the fuck, no. What is like? I have no business being here. So, in order to get those people, we had to change everything. And that's what we did. My buddy actually does design and stuff. I think I told you that last week, but yeah, we just came up with the name together and he did the logo and everything. And it's just opened me up for like a wider array of people to speak to. And that's what we were going for. And it's done pretty well thus far.
Yeah, you got that cool logo behind you. I think that's pretty sweet.
Thanks. Yo.
But we spoke about this the last time. The rebrand from my perspective, like I guess this might be good insight for you, maybe somebody who's kind of coming through your page, looking at everything. It just looks professional. It looks very, very professional. And I mentioned that to you before. So I think y'all did a really good job with it. And I also think your point about kind of not niching down, like broadening the scope of what you talk about, because there's certain people that have one interest or two interests, and good for them. They can talk about that one or two interests. But I'm similar in that way where I have the spectrum of interest that I have is so broad that it's like almost a negative. Um, so I want to talk to people the same way. Like example for you, like I want to talk about hunting. I want to talk about podcasting. I also want to get into your background because I believe your first episode was on a pocket recorder, a police officer pocket recorder. Is that what it was?
Yeah. Yep. Used to be a cop.
Um, and yeah, so I wanted to. Were you a cop in Montana or in Michigan?
Yeah. So I'm from Michigan originally. I did 3 years in Nashville, Tennessee. That's where I started. And then the past 2 years, I was here in Montana where I live currently.
What compelled you to move to Montana?
To hunt elk.
Seriously?
It's that simple. Yeah. Yeah. I
Wow.
always I always like try to be quiet because my wife's upstairs. But she knows the deal. But that was pretty much it. Yeah.
The conviction with which you answer that speaks to the fact that was like that's a like you didn't have to think about that. You moved to Montana to hunt elk. I think that's pretty badass.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't lie to you.
not
that's
not a lot of
exact that's
not a lot of
exactly
elk in
why I wanted to
Michigan.
come. No, no, not at all.
Um, I'm an East Coast origin. I'm originally from Atlanta, East Coast, not any elk. There's some actually in Kentucky, thanks to like the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. I guess they're doing some implants and all that stuff, trying to regrow the natural herd, which I think is really cool. But all that to say, I've never hunted elk. I don't hunt elk in Georgia. You obviously did in Michigan. I'm assuming you grew up hunting whitetail,
Every fall, dude. Yep, that's how I grew up, and
sitting
I
in a
hunted.
stand.
Yeah, dude, I hunted whitetail like consistently since 20. Yeah, up until 2020, and then we moved here, and I want to say the summer of 21. Yeah, so
Have you gotten back into the whitetail woods at all since you've started hunting elk?
like if I go home, yeah, but like we're not hanging tree stands out here, bro. Like
Yeah.
not even close. I'd rather. It's just terrible. Like if I hung a tree stand and I heard a bugle, like, and I'm just sitting there, the hell with that. I'm jumping down and I'm running after it. That's what's so much fun. That's why I love doing this so much, is because it kind of tailors right into something that I do all the time, anyways, which is run. And people don't think that you can run while you hunt. Well, that's false. You definitely can. I do it.
Yeah. Yeah, the episode 12 of my podcast was with Dalton Heron, my buddy from Wenatchee, Washington, and he most avid hunter that I know personally. I mean, he hunts. I think he's actually hunting consecutively from August through like early October. He's got 2 elk tags, 2
Yep.
whitetail tags, and a mule deer tag. And it's kind of interesting to hear him as well talk about his perspective on Western hunting and how different it is. I apologize entirely for that. I did not know that. I'll cut this out. This is unreal, of course. Yeah, dude, I apologize. I
You're good, brother.
never had this happen before.
No, you're good. I think it takes balls to do a podcast outside, anyways. Good for you.
I'm talking like this guy is literally 10 feet from me using an angle grinder. I wonder if he's looking at me laughing, like, look at this guy talking into a fucking microphone, and I'm just out here.
You know he is.
Unbelievable. Looks like he's almost done, dude. I really apologize.
Dude, you're fine. I get it.
I'm living with my brother right now, so and
is that y'all's complex or whatever behind you?
Yeah, and he's a 1-bedroom, and he has an office up there, so like I can't do it in his apartment, so I gotta find places to do it. And this is usually where I do it, and it's pretty quiet, except I guess they're doing construction today.
No kidding.
Unbelievable, dude.
The cool thing is, bro, is that like what I do if shit gets messed up is I just write down the time and then I just go into it and just cut it, and like it's really not all that serious. Just press record and make little notes and you're good.
Well, yeah, it's more so for you. Like, this is not a very professional thing to have.
Dude, you didn't got where I was late, so that's also not very professional.
That's a good point, I guess. And here I am. There was a dog barking like 5 minutes before 10, and it stopped barking. The owner took it in, and I was like, yes, finally. And then this guy comes out like right at 10:03 or whatever. But sounds like he's done. But yeah, so I mean, the thing to me, and I don't know if this was the case for you. I've grown up hunting hog, whitetail. I've gone turkey hunting once, but mostly just hog and whitetail. And tree stands. Farthest shot I'm going to take is 150 yards. I'm never going to be stalking because there's too many trees and you can't see at all. And so I have this like vision, like a legitimate bucket list thing for me is killing a 6x6 elk, or I don't want to say 6x6, but a large bull elk with an arrow. Was that something that you always like wanted, or did you not really know you wanted it until you moved to Montana?
It's a very good question. I always refer, like when I'm out and hunting or camping or whatever, I'm like, man, I'm living a dream. Like, this is so cool. Like, so many of my friends back home would kill to be where I'm at right now. I don't necessarily know if I've always wanted to like kill an elk, but over the past, probably say like 7 years, when I've really started getting into hunting and shooting my bow every day and just really training for like hunting, I just started diving down rabbit holes and trying to talk to people who have been out here. And I'm always watching YouTube videos of guys hunting out here. And we had a vacation that got all messed up during COVID, and we kind of milked it out and then decided that we wanted to come out here. We were supposed to go to Florida. And like every Michigan person ever who's been to Florida 10,000 times, right? But that got canceled. So we had to wait a couple more months, and I was like, let's go somewhere random. My wife's like, where? And I'm like, let's go to Montana. She's like, what's in Montana? I was like, I have no fucking idea, but we should go. I secretly knew like why I was going there, but I was like, I heard it's really pretty. We should go. And then I got her to fall in love with it over 7 days. Like she fell in love with me. And then a year later, we ended up moving, and like kind of the rest is history. But yeah, it's pretty cool, man. I love it. Like when you get out here, you understand how crazy it is. Like I can't describe to you like what it's like. You just have to come with me.
Yeah, that I'm actually going to be in Montana. I just booked the flight yesterday, mid-September, and I haven't been since I was 6 or 7 years old. So I have like, you've got to be kidding me. I have this conception of it that's like almost like larger than life. I don't know. I haven't seen it in person in so long. I have these memories of seeing. I went to Big Sky to ski,
Yeah.
um, but I just have this larger than like Montana specifically. Like the whole West, I'm sure is beautiful. Wyoming, all that stuff. I'm sure it's comparable, but Montana specifically to me for some reason is like the pinnacle of the Western United States. So I have like admiration for people like yourself who took the chance because I'm sure a lot of people have talked to you from the East Coast from back home that are like, oh, that sounds so nice. Like that'd be cool. But you just took the step. You said, fuck it, I'm doing it. So like what compelled you to actually take that step? Like, because I'm sure there was a lot of things tying you back to Michigan or Nashville, wherever you were.
Yeah, I knew that I was never gonna go back to Michigan. Like I'll never live in Michigan again. I love it. It's my home state, great. But there's just more to life than like the same old roads I've always driven and the same old people and shit like that. I'm big on perspective, so I like traveling and going and talking to new people. Like I hardly know you, but I jumped on your podcast, jumped on a meeting with you. Like that's where I'm at. Like it's uncomfortable at times to meet new people that you don't know or to take a chance or take a risk and, travel here or move here or quit a job to go to another job that you're not sure like how you're going to do at it. Right. That's my game. And the reason my wife and I are together is because that's her game too. We're not those people being like, oh man, that's so cool. Like, no way. Really? You're doing that? Man, I wish I could do that. Why fucking can't you? You can do that. You can move somewhere. Do you have kids? No. You got a boyfriend? Cool. Move. If they don't want to come with you, fuck them. Move on. So we're just like that, and we've made a lot of mistakes by taking chances, but a lot of things have also like blossomed from us taking chances. So there's also again we're always walking a fine line. So sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. But I don't want to be the old dude that's sitting on my porch when I'm freaking gray haired and half bald, being like, damn. Remember when we were 27 and we wanted to move out to Montana and we never did? Why didn't we do that? There was
Yeah.
nothing holding us back. We have the money. Like we can switch jobs. We should have did that. And if we didn't like it, we'll just leave. Like we'll just go back home. But when we're in the position to be able to take chances like that, my wife and I try to do that as much as possible if it makes sense. But yeah, we don't wish and hope. We just kind of take action. And that's kind of our thing.
I think what you just said right there about it kind of ties into like a common theme for my podcast. What's the worst that can happen? Right.
Yeah,
Uh, you move to Montana, say you get a 6 month lease or a month long lease and you don't like it. Literally the worst that could happen is you say fuck it and then move back. Right. Like, okay,
that's it.
cool. That's literally the worst that could happen. You want to start a podcast. The worst that could happen is you, in your case, I guess you didn't even spend any money on any any equipment at the beginning. So you're just like
Mm-mm.
the literal worst thing that you could happen or that could happen to you is that you have a conversation or 5 or 10 with a buddy, and then you're like, I don't really like that shit, so I'm gonna move on.
Yeah.
That's the I've never heard that before. We don't really hope or wish, we take action. That's really cool.
Yeah, and
That
I don't know. Like I understand people who get nervous and second guess everything and financially it might not make sense or this, that, and the other, but like it might not be the right time. Dude, it's not the right time for half the shit that I do. Like in all honesty, like my wife and I, we want to have kids. Well, is it the right time? I don't know. Is it ever going to be the right time though? Like when are you really ready to ever have kids? Like for example, right? Like is it the right time to put our house on the market for sale? No, like the freaking interest rates are through the roof. Who's going to buy this fucking place? You know what I mean? So it's just there's really never the right time. You just have to make it the right time. Like and that's what we do.
the thought that I kind of coined or the quote I guess is the only way to know where to start is to start. Like there's the kids example is perfect. You hear that from thousands of couples. It's like, cause that's a huge decision. Like your life will alter and it will never be the same. But it's like,
Facts.
oh, well, I want to wait till, and I don't have kids. So take that with a grain of salt. I'm not in a relationship either, but the way I envision is like, okay, well, I want to have this much money in the bank, or I want to have this type of job. I want to have this figured out. And then when you get to that point, it's going to be like 5 other things that you want to figure out. So it's the same in pretty much all endeavors that require some level of risk. Like there's no way to perfectly plan it. You just have to full send, for lack of a better term. Um,
That's
so
so
yeah,
true.
respect to y'all for doing that, man. I think that's so cool. The thing,
Dude, this is amazing. I'm actually enjoying this. This is awesome.
dude, I'm like,
I I
I'm gonna be candorous. I'm like embarrassed right now. I'm serious. This
I
is
vote that
embarrassing.
you don't cut out anything. Just rip it
I'm more
raw.
embarrassed because of like the fact that just to you, like I don't give a shit about like it. I don't know.
Dude, you
It's disrespectful.
I ain't no different than you are, bro. Like,
I
my
want to be
dogs
like, hey
could
man,
pop. My dog my
how many more you
okay.
got, dog? Jeez Louise, man. Oh gosh, man. Whatever. But
You're good, brother.
maybe I'll keep this just to show people and then look back maybe at episode
This is
100
what
and
I'm talking about, bro. This is exactly what I'm saying.
this is what I'll do.
Exactly what I'm saying.
Your example of the breathing. I'll
Yeah.
be like, yeah, so on this one you're gonna hear an angle grinder in the background for the whole thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was gonna ask you for this audio, but I don't want it anymore, dude. What the fuck?
yeah, dude. Seriously, I mean, you could post a couple clips where you're talking over a damn Ryobi if you want. Um, while we're at it, what do you? I asked you last time. What do you got right there?
Oh, these fuckers should sponsor me, in all honesty. These Rogue nicotine pouches. I've been dipping tobacco since high school, like an asshole, because I thought it was cool, and like it was pretty cool. I won't lie. Like I could throw in some slammers back in the day, but my wife's like, "Man, you need to quit. Like this is expensive and it's bad for your health." And I'm like, "I know. I just really like dipping." And I quit when I was in college for 2 years, and then got bored and started up again. So yeah, I've gone, I don't know, 5, 6 weeks without any Copenhagen, and these things, they're pretty good. Throw two in, and apparently, like nicotine is good for your brain. It gets a bad rap just because of cigarettes, but if there's not any fucking toxic chemicals in these
Yeah.
pouches, and it's just strictly nicotine, um, I think it's. I've heard it's pretty beneficial. I don't know all the science, but I've heard what I needed to hear in order to not feel bad about doing them.
Yeah, I'm in complete alignment. I'm a Zen guy right now. I'm actually about to try a new thing called Lucy soon. But nicotine is a cholinergic. It's cholinergic, which means it affects the choline uh, production or emission in your body, which basically helps you focus. It helps memory retention. Uh, I think it increases adrenaline. So yeah, the science is there. Peter Attia, he was like a very, you know who Peter Attia is?
No, I don't.
He's a very, very successful and well-known scientist. The piece keeps getting smaller and smaller, so I think he's probably done here soon. So we'll see. But he's a well-known scientist from Stanford, I believe. I think so, and he's a huge nicotine advocate. So ever since he like basically said he was on it, I'm like, yeah, fuck it. If he's gonna do it, I'll do it. And I've noticed some pretty strong effects, frankly.
Yeah, it's not as good as Copenhagen. Like, I'll be straight up honest with you. I don't know if you've ever dipped before. Like,
Never
guys
dipped.
that dip who listen to the show know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, you get done with lunch, you get done with dinner, boom, front seater. Can't really beat it, man. Like, you just can't beat it. And I think that's all like the baseball and shit that I played growing up. I don't know if I think I've said this before, but I don't know if I'm addicted to Copenhagen. I think I'm more addicted to the act of spitting.
Yeah,
Like, I spit 24/7. It's pretty gross, but um, yeah, these do it. They knock the edge off, so to speak.
yeah, and I surprising. I might be like the only person you know that's played 20 years of baseball that never dipped. But yeah, I've never put a dip in.
That's wild.
Yeah, pretty
Now,
much all
how
my
was that
teammates.
with because you played at, was it Virginia Tech? I'm sorry if I'm
Virginia Tech.
wrong.
Now you're correct.
So were guys on the team dipping a lot?
Oh yeah. The thing
And you
is,
get in big trouble for that. So were they just like throwing them in the back seat and like
they
just
it's kind of an unwritten rule, man. I think the umpires understand. I do have a funny story about that where
yeah,
so you can't if you're obvious with it, you will get ejected. And the thing is, if a player gets ejected for at least in the ACC If a player gets ejected for dip, the coach gets ejected. So we're playing Marshall at Marshall. We're losing, and we're Virginia Tech. We're way bigger. We're way better. We should be winning this game,
Sure.
and we're losing. They bring in a new pitcher, and this dumbass kid left his can in his back pocket. So
Oh,
he's on
tough.
he's on the mound throwing pitches, and we're all like, "Yeah, coach, he's got dip there." So
Yeah.
our coach goes to the umpires like, "Hey, I think he's got tobacco." They go up to him. He gets ejected. The head coach of the other team gets ejected. They bring in another pitcher. We shit on him, and we end up winning the game. So
That's so funny. And that was how long ago was that?
that was 6 or 7 years. That was my freshman year, I believe, sophomore year. So 5 or 6 years ago.
So that's kind of before like all this fancy fake stuff, right? So like if you had a round circular can in your pocket, you're really not fooling anybody. Like the only other thing that you could have is the gas station little beef jerky dip that we used to do when we were kids because we thought we were cool.
Yep.
But yeah, you're really not hiding it. There wasn't anything like Zin or like this rogue shit. At least I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Back then,
everybody that I know was ripping Cope or Grizzly was big on our team.
Yeah.
But dude, back to the hunting. I any new endeavor, whether it be moving to Montana, whether it be starting a podcast, whether it be starting a new sport or hobby, there's like this wall that you have to get over. At least for me, and I'm referring to hunting for myself, specifically elk hunting. I've never been on one. So I have like this, it's this big wall in my mind. We're like, oh, what about where the first one should be? Should it be public or should I go with a guide? How long should it be? Where should it be? What was your first elk hunt? And was there that wall for you? Like, did you have this thing that you kind of had to just kind of break through and then you're exposed to the rest of it? Or how did that go for you in your first hunt?
So when I moved out here, you have to live in Montana for 6 months in order to become a resident. So they put like 180 days or whatever on you as before you can officially become a resident. So I'll tell this story just because it's been a long time, but it was like November and I was like, man, the hell with this. I haven't been here 6 months, but I'm going to go to Fish and Game and see what I can do. So long story short, it's been like 4 or 5 months and the guy's like, what do you need? And I was like, elk tag and a deer tag. And he's like, $37. And I was like, you don't need anything else besides my ID? And he's like, no, you're still a cop, right? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, yeah, you're good. So he gave me some tags early, but prior to that, I was lucky enough to go out with a friend at the time who kind of just was like, hey, come on, kind of what I want to do with you. If you come out here and you want to come, just come on, like, let's go. Bring a camera, bring a smile, bring your hiking boots because we're going to put on a lot of miles and we're just going to try to get into elk. And bro, it was fucking 4 days and we didn't hear a bugle. Like nothing, dog. Like nothing. And I'm like, the fuck, dude? Like, there has to be elk here. Like, we're going to primo spots, right? And long story short, my buddy ended up finding this place, a piece of state land that his buddy had recently killed a really nice bull on, but he wouldn't tell him where it was. So my buddy's on his maps all day, just putting pieces together. His buddy was like giving him clues. And all of a sudden we get to this spot and he calls his buddy and he goes, I found it. And he's like, okay, I'll tell you like the ins and outs of this piece. And the next day, bro, it was the craziest day of elk hunting I've ever had in my entire life.
Wow.
Like we had 8 miles on before like 9 a.m. Like something fucking dumb, like just ridiculous. But we're just chasing elks, north, east, south, and west. Get the wind in your favor and go. And that's what we did. And ever since then, dude, I've just been hooked. And I wasn't even hunting. Like I had no bow, nothing. I was just running and gunning, having fun, chasing 350-inch class inch bulls, just having a blast. And ever since then, I've just have loved it. And last year was kind of my first real season as like a full season from start to finish. You know, I hunted a lot last year by myself, and that was huge because you can't hide. You can't hide from it. You're either going to go find them or you're not. And I was lucky enough to find a lot and get into elk a lot, had a lot of great opportunities, didn't put all the pieces together, but that's one of those things where it's a 5 or 10% chance of you actually putting the pieces together. And that's why I love it, because it's really, really hard, but it is just the most fun. And I wish I could get on here and explain to you what it's like, but I can't. Like we heard so many bugles that time that I'm referring to, that when I got home that night and laid my head down, I couldn't sleep because I just had bugles ringing through my ears
Yeah.
for like a day and a half, dude. After we left, it was unbelievable,
It's a
unbelievable.
sound. I've never heard one in person, but even the like clips. I mean, I'm assuming there'll be people that listen to this that have never heard of elk bugle. It's like one of the most. I'm getting chills thinking about hearing my first one in the wild. It's like an angelic sound almost. It's
You'll
otherworldly.
you'll always remember it. You'll always. I still remember mine, dude. And like, this is how green I was in terms of elk hunting. So we hike into this spot that my buddy found at the time. It was a 2 mile hike. I asked him, I was like, how far do you think we have to go to get to where we need to be? He goes, 2 miles. We sit down, bro, and I look at my watch and it's 1.99 miles. And I was like, dude, you're on it. Like, good for you. So we sit down for a second. It's still dark. And we just start hearing bugles pop off. And he gets up, throws his backpack on, and he's like ready to go. And I'm like, hey, like, don't you think we should wait until it gets a little bit lighter so we can like locate the elk? He's like, did you hear that? I'm like, yeah. He's like, we've located the elk. They're over there. And I'm like, so this is how this game is played. Like, you don't necessarily have to see them.
Yeah.
Just fucking hear them and then go. So I had no idea what I was doing, but I was like, this makes a lot of sense.
It's almost a different, like, it's all hunting, but whitetail hunting on the east, like, it's just not even remotely comparable. Like, you'll never be sitting there and then hear a whitetail and be like, I'm gonna get out of my stand and go that way and go follow that white. It's like you you just sit there and wait. It's a different ball game. It's fun, especially archery, whitetail hunting. But to me, man, that just is like the pinnacle of outdoorsmanship. Elk specifically, for some reason. I know some people are like mule deer, uh, like specific or different wild, like sheep. I know sheep hunters can kind of get a little culty and stuff like that. But for me, in my current state, the perception that I have of like the pinnacle of hunting and outdoorsmanship, it's a solo hunt, Western United States for a big old elk. So the solo hunts are, my buddy hunted 25 days solo 2 Septembers ago. We got into that a little bit. He talked about it being like pretty grueling, like a real challenge. Do you have the same experience, like just being by yourself out there?
Brother, it's nothing but work. Like, especially the way that I hunt, like I'll average 10 miles a day. And when you're on a 7-day trip, do the fucking math. Like, it's no joke. I put on like 175 miles last September on my own 2 feet in September, bro. Like, I hunted in October. I hunted in November. I'm talking just September. Like, I was grinding. I had a marathon day one day, like fucking
That's insane.
marathon. So it's just one of those things. And like, I have a buddy who is very, very fixated on it. I'm almost 30. He's probably late 30s, and he's born and raised in right outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Owns an archery shop. He's been on the show, Logan White. If he listens to this, what's up, brother? But I asked him a question. I was like, dude, like, and this was before I moved out west, and I'd be in his pro shop and he'd be talking to me about going out west and hunting elk. And I'm like, what is this about, dude? And he's kind of one of the guys who really like got me into it. And like, now I'm like, okay, like this sounds amazing. And I'm still big into whitetail hunting at the time. And I'm like, you like it more than whitetail hunting? And he's like, dude, if there was some sort of like ultimatum, like some messed up situation where somebody was like, Logan, you could either hunt elk for 7 days out of the year, 1 7-day trip to hunt elk, or you could never hunt whitetail again. But you could hunt 7 days every year, don't have to worry about tags, you just go. He's like, I would do that trip every single day or every single year and never hunt whitetail again. And I'm like, are you freaking serious? He's like, you just have to go, brother. He's like, I'm telling you, you just have to go. I called him after that story that I told 10 minutes ago about all that crazy encounter, that crazy day when we just heard bugles the entire day and we're just into them like nobody's business. I was like, I understand now. I get it. I get what you were saying. You're right, dude. You're totally right, because if I had that ultimatum too, I would pick the 7-day elk hunt over whitetail ever again. And it's just facts, man. For me, it's right down my alley.
And that's after your first ever that's your first time hunting elk ever. You knew it like right away.
Dude, I wasn't even hunting elk. I was just out.
Oh
My
shit.
buddy was hunting elk. I had a camera. I was a non-resident. I just wanted to go. I just wanted to get into the mountains and I wanted to be there to just learn, be a sponge. Cause and thank God that I did, bro. Thank God that I got to learn as a non-resident those first couple months because I would have been fucking so lost.
Yeah, that's you mentioned it and you actually extended an invite, which I appreciate. That's kind of what I want to do because I think that to go back to my previous question about that wall for like the first hunt, I think that would just it'd be like exposure without being thrown into the deep end with a weight around your ankles, you know? Because I've never hunted public land. I've never, like I mentioned, never been to Montana or any elk woods for that matter. So to be able to go with somebody like yourself or my buddy Dalton that's been there, that's done that, that knows the lay of the land and the process, I think would be so big for my hunting development as far as that goes. Um, I will 100% take you up on that if you're actually offering.
I'm actually offering, dude. You come this weekend, dog, like for real. I'd probably recommend you go with like one of my buddies opposed to me because all my buddies are like way better hunters than I am just because they've been out here. But that's why I go with them so I can learn. Like, there's
Mhm.
no sense of me, um, just two green guys going out. Of course, like that makes sense and it's fun, but I want to learn and I want to expedite this process as quick as possible. So, regardless of what it is that I'm doing, I try to do it with people that have more knowledge, more skill, more experience, and that's with anything. And that's helped my learning curve. And hopefully, when you get out here, and if you can make it happen for 2 or 3 days, you come out with me, and it's really fun too because when you're not hunting and you're just there, you can see things from a different perspective, right?
Mhm.
So there was a couple things that my buddy at the time did on that trip that I keep referring to that I didn't agree with, but I wasn't in the heat of the moment, right? I wasn't the guy who had an arrow knocked, thinking that I'm going to kill this elk. I'm over his shoulder 30 yards behind him being like, you might want to move over there, or like this isn't the right way to do this, even though I don't really necessarily know, but you can see things from afar because you're really not invested in it like that. Like, it's not your time at this moment, which really helped me, because you can take bits and pieces of how people hunt or how people go about their business, and you can be like, ooh, I really like what Nolan did here. When it's my turn, I'm going to implement that. But I also remember how Nolan fucked up that one stalk, and I can't make that mistake too. So you just take bits and pieces from people as you just go out and get more experience, and that's what I've tried to do. And I hunt elk a certain way, and I hunt mule deer a certain way, but I've gathered bits and pieces from just people that I've gone out with. How, hey, I liked what he did over there. Or he fucked that up. So you just create your own style in a game, essentially.
Yeah, the from my understanding, it's kind of the same with whitetail. Everybody's got their own, especially like the
Mhm.
old heads, like the old dudes that I've grown up on the lease with, where it's like six. This one dude, Steve, who's been hunting this property. Literally, he grew up on this property, so he's 56 years old. He could tell you without a map to the foot how far away a specific like boundary or line is from a stand and all this crazy shit. So he's got his own process of how he hunts whitetail on that property. I would assume that it becomes sort of an art. Like certain dudes will hunt a certain way in terms of elk that other dudes like they'll do something that's crazy to somebody, but I mean if it works, it works. And it's kind of also cool. It's like martial arts in that way where there's like
Yeah.
principles and all that, and then there's things that you kind of add on and it becomes your own little twist, which is really cool.
Yeah, like whitetail hunting, dude. Like, I hunt whitetails, I think, way different from the majority of people. I kind of hunt whitetails in like the newer style where I'd rather pull up to, let's say we have 300 acres that I've never been on before. I'll have a stand on my back and I'll scout my fucking way in. And if I, come up on a sweet scrape line or a really nice funnel or a really nice pinch, I'll set up there. I don't just pick a spot on the map and be like, yep, that's where we're going. That's where I'm going to set up. I've never been here. Let's try this. No, I try to actually scout my way in. And when I find a place or a pinch or something like that I think that they're coming in, then I'll set up. I never set up blind. And then, that might be for the morning hunt. After the morning hunt's done, I take my stand down, regroup, and try to figure out a spot for the evening. So I'm really big on the first sit is the best sit for whitetail hunting. because I've seen it happen and I've
Mhm.
seen it work and I've made it work before. So that's how I hunt. I'm not the guy who's like, I got this really good stand over here. It's always produced. Well, I don't think so. Like big deer aren't fucking dumb, dude. Like they're not. They didn't get that big by just walking about. Like they're aware.
I'm sure there's also like with elk hunting, there's probably people that stagnate for that exact reason. They have like maybe a particular unit or a particular uh, part of unit that they enjoy, that they're like stuck in their ways. So every year they do this, this, and this. They do it the exact same way just because they had 2 or 3 successful hunts in their life. And that's not how I am either. I would much rather, my favorite day of whitetail hunting ever, left it before sunrise, started walking. I don't know how many miles I walked that day, but I was out for 12, 14 hours, never came back to camp. Went from one stand in the morning, walked around kind of to the swamp, kind of just would walk, sit, see if anything happened.
Yep.
Then ended up walking, going back to a different stand in the evening, and it wasn't the first stand, but ended up being successful hunt. And that's by far my favorite whitetail experience ever, as opposed to just something about it. I just get bored so quick, and it just is not really appealing to me. Like going and sitting for 5 hours, going back to camp, going back to the same stand, sitting for 4 or 5 hours. It's just not how I think. It's not how I think we grew as people hunting either. I don't think like back when we were hunters and gatherers that hey, you go sit right there for the whole day. You go sit there for the whole day, and then we'll come back tonight and see what happens. I think we were a lot more. We flowed a lot more. We were responsive to the
Mhm.
animals and seeing what they were doing. So it sounds like that's more in line with how you hunt as well.
Yeah, and it's so rewarding too when I won't say you guess right, but when you do the research and you make an, let's call it an educated guess, right? Because you're never exactly sure if the spot that you want to set up on is like the great spot. But I really found this really nice spot when I was in Nashville that I always wanted to hang a stand, and I ended up getting in there and I hung this stand, and I was like, I'm not hunting this thing for like 3 weeks because I had to go to Missouri for a hunting trip that we went on. So I went to Missouri like 3 weeks later. I was like, okay, I'm gonna sit in this stand, and I saw all three of my target bucks in this stand. The first time I ever sat there, and I was full draw on the biggest deer on the entire piece at like 50 yards, and I thought it was an elk. He was that big. He was gigantic, and it just never ended up happening. But I was like, oh, like it clicked. It was like, man, this research and the scouting and being patient, where it's like, just set this stand up, let it sit, let it breathe. Don't even go in there until you can and you have the right wind. And that just happened to be 3 weeks later, and it worked, man. So yeah, if you hunt that way, it's really rewarding when the pieces do come together.
There's also like it's like a dance almost because you don't want to be too patient where you
Oh,
lose
dude,
that
it's
opportunity.
chess.
Yeah,
Yeah, big
that's a great way
time.
to put it. It's chess. I never even thought about that because they're also. It's not like an elk's just going to sit still. Like they're living their life
Facts.
trying not to get killed.
Facts.
I guess that's the same for whitetail as well. I don't know any whitetail that are actively out here trying to get an arrow through them.
If you know them, holler at me. I'll travel.
Yeah, for real, for the elk that stands still. So you talked about fitness. I mean, anybody who knows anything about the hunting that we're talking about, the Western hunting, you're gonna put miles in. That's just how it goes. And the fitness part of it, my buddy Dalton spoke on it heavily. Like it's insane. Like you're carrying a pack, you're going up. It's not like a flat surface. You're going because this is the other thing. You could put 10, 12 miles down on a flat surface, and that'd be difficult. But when you add elevation change and all this crazy shit, like what's your fitness? Because you mentioned you're into fitness and all that. What's your fitness program in terms of getting yourself ready for that season, knowing how strenuous it's going to be?
Great question, man. And I get this question a lot. Obviously, like that's my job now as I'm a fitness coach. I mentor a bunch of guys and try to get them squared away based on whatever their goals are. And everyone's like, man, what do you do? And I'm like, nah, dog, like I don't really recommend what I do because I do things different. I do a little bit of everything. I'm a big runner. I hate running. And I'll say that again. I'm a big runner, but I hate running. I run because it's terrible. It's not fun. And I think that you should do difficult things every day. Like, perfect example. Last night, my wife and I went to this little mountain town, spent the day, worked remote, ended up going to this restaurant, had a big old juicy burger. I think I had 5 Stellas throughout the day. Got back into town, went and got Dairy Queen with my wife. And last night I was like, fuck, all right. You're allowed to have those days, but I was like, all right, I'm gonna run 10 miles tomorrow, which is now today. I was like, I don't care when I do it, how long it takes me, if I have to do a couple runs, whatever, but I need to do 10 miles. I'm not going to lift today because I did the legs yesterday, so I'm sore. But I was like, I'm going to run 10 miles. And when I run 10 miles, I don't lift anyways. But like before the podcast, I was late because I had to get a couple miles in before, and I'll get, I got 3.5 in this morning. So I'll get, 6.5 tonight, and we'll be good. But that'll get my 10 in. But I ended up getting hurt in January, which kind of forced me to look outside of the running cardio, if that makes sense. So I got really big into like the stairs and incline work and rucking and the skier. And then I just create one giant circuit to freaking jack my heart rate. Cause I just want to burn calories, dude. Like that's what I'm about. Is like, I usually burn actively like over 1,000 calories a day, and I eat clean on top of that. But I'm really big on putting in miles, dude. In terms of like strength stuff, I usually lift for 30 minutes a day, and I mean, we're not jacking weight, bro. We're not benching fucking 225. We're not squatting 3 plates. I'm just maintaining what I have. I'm 175 pounds, pretty cut up, but I don't want to lose any of that. But I'm also not trying to like get jacked. I just want to be mobile. I want to, um, just be an athlete, and that's how I train. I do literally a little bit of everything, man. I just want to be as well-rounded as possible, and know that if I do get that elk down 7 miles from the fucking trailhead, that I'm physically capable enough to get that done and pack that elk out by myself. So I do everything, brother. Long story short, I kind of train in like a hybrid approach, so a little bit of everything.
You mentioned a word, athlete, and Cam Hanes is kind of the first person to, I maybe not the first person, but like he's obviously the most prominent in terms of like he trains year round for September, because I think especially on the East Coast, I keep referencing that because that's my experience. People don't assume that like hunting is like an athletic endeavor, right? It's not like,
Yes.
because in reality, it's really not. Like going and sitting in a stand is not athletic. But for you to mention that you want to stay athletic to hunt, that speaks to the type of hunting you're doing. And my buddy Dalton said the exact same thing, man. It's like if you don't train to do that, you will get fucked. Like
Mm.
if you kill that elk and you're 10 miles deep, you're like, good luck. You know what I mean? So it's, to me, it's almost more important than any other type of training, because you're training for a purpose that actually has meat and uh, the life of an animal that you want to ethically. Because the one thing that I think about is somebody going in the woods doing a solo hunt, or maybe it's two guys that are unhealthy or whatever, and they can't get the elk out in time, or the animal out in time, and the meat spoils or something. I would feel like an utter piece of shit because I didn't train. I didn't put myself in the best position to honor that animal and honor the death of that animal because I was too lazy for X, Y, and Z reason. So I think that it also, to me, would make it a little bit easier in those days where like, I don't want to go run, or I don't want to go lift. You kind of put that goal up front. You're like, okay, well, am I going to be able to pack this elk out in a manner that I see as honorable and ethical? So I think that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, my biggest thing, dude, is like I talked with Dan about this on my show. Is like I don't want any limitations. So regardless, man, if it's day 4 of a 10-day hunt and I've averaged 10 miles for the past 4 fucking days, do the math, that's 40 miles. And it's been a long day, a long 4 days, and I hear that bugle, or I see that herd a mile away, and it's about to get dark in 30 minutes. Dude, I'm going. Like, I don't care. I'm going. I want to be physically capable enough to be able to push. Like, I don't want any limitations, because if you're physically limited in the mountains and you're big game hunting out west, dude, this shit's hard enough. Like, it is hard enough, let alone being gassed while you're out there. I do not want that. I want to be in the best shape as I physically can be. That's why I do like ultra marathons. Those are fucking terrible, dude. They're terrible. But if I can go out and run for 24 hours, I know I can hunt for 7 days, dude. Like, I know I can do. If I can run the mountains, I know that I can hike them. You know what I mean? Like, if I can run this shit, I know that I can throw a pack on and I can walk and do this shit. So that's how I look at it, man. I just don't want any limitations at all because it's so hard. I can't imagine being not physically able to go chase that bugle or to go chase that herd or to try to beat, the elk to that funnel. It very rarely fucking happens because if you try to run after an elk, you'll find out very quickly that it's damn near impossible. Trust me, I've tried it and I run a lot, but it's damn near impossible to catch an elk. But I at least want to fucking try, dog. Like I at least want to be capable enough to try it, and Lord knows that I do.
I can see you pack on maybe a bow in hand or just like fucking
I have
sprinting
videos
through the
on my
damn woods.
page, dude, like me dead sprinting with a pack on and my bow in my hand trying to cut this elk off.
That's so gnarly.
Yeah.
The the thing to me as well is the amount of meat. I guess hunting is hunting for everybody for different reasons. Like the amount of meat that comes with hunting an elk, the provider that you are for your family and that I want to be, that is incredibly important to me. So the ability to be in the best shape of my life, or at least the best shape that I can be, to take advantage of that. Because you just mentioned a great point. Imagine being 6 days into a 7 day hunt, and you skipped a week straight back in fucking May because you were feeling like a lazy piece of shit,
Yep.
and you couldn't go to that elk that you wanted on the 6th day. So you just not wasted, but you just spent 7 days. You didn't get what you needed. You didn't provide for your family. You didn't harvest that elk because you were lazy 4 months ago. So I think it all plays into that. And also, I find it interesting that you just mentioned this. My buddy Trevor on episode 17 of this podcast, I asked him what health was to him, and his response was the ability to do what he wanted to do. So like, if
Yes.
I want to ask my body to do jujitsu, I want my body to be able to respond positively so I can do jujitsu. If I want my body to go hunt elk for 10, 15, 20 days of a month, I want my body to be able to do that. So I think the way that you just answered, the way that I perceive it is that's health to you, is to
It
be able
is.
to do that if you want to. And that's what health is to me as well. Being able to do what I want my body to be able to do.
Yeah, and if you want your body to be able to do what it is that you want it to do, that doesn't just come. Like, yeah, there's a certain level of fitness that everybody has, and your mind, can override that a little bit, but like you still really need to be in great shape and you need to be capable. And that comes by putting yourself in uncomfortable positions, training positions, right? Like that's why I run some of these races or my mind, like when I get something in my mind, it's jacked. Like last night, I was like, fuck, I should probably run 10 miles tomorrow. It's been a while since I've had a double digit running day, right? In terms of miles. So I woke up and I was like, shit, I should probably start getting going. Like I have a couple of meetings today. I got this podcast. I got to work. So let me knock out a little bit of this and then I'll get the rest in tonight when I'm done with my work. But that shit's uncomfortable, man. And you have to put yourself into the fire. I think daily, to be completely honest with you. Like I think that you should do something difficult every single day. And whatever that looks like is whatever that looks like for you. My difficult is probably way different than yours. You mentioned jujitsu. I don't know if you do jujitsu frequently enough, but like that might be your hard. Let's roll for an hour. Okay. Well, I might go for a 15-mile run. That's hard for me. Or I might do some sort of animalistic fucking workout in the gym because that's hard for me. But everybody has their own difficulty and whatever it is that they're doing. So do it. Find out what your heart is because it's gonna better you for the end goal.
Yeah, I think it also pays homage to our ancestors. Like I can't remember who said this, but somebody told me or tweeted something along the lines of, my buddy asked me if my grandpa would be proud of me. And I'm like, think about what your great grandfather or your great great grandfather, think about what they did, and then would they be proud of the work that I'm putting in today? Like not some like big pick, like literally today, would my great 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 grandfather that went through any number of fucking things that I can't even imagine, would he be proud of the work that I'm putting in? And if you don't do something that's strenuous, which I believe that every single person up to a certain point, because there's people that live today that actually don't do anything strenuous on a day to day, which is crazy to me. But there's, say, like the Sioux Indians or Lakota Indian or any Native American tribe. You don't think that every motherfucker in that tribe did something every single day that was difficult? If you don't, I think you're sadly mistaken. And so it's almost like paying homage to your lineage and to your ancestors by doing that as well.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. And again, it's all perspective. Like everybody's heart is going to be different. Like I remember I did this one race a couple years ago. I've done it twice now. Um, and I won't go into the race, but we're on this, there's like two really big hills that you have to climb, and then you just pretty much keep climbing them until there's nobody left. And the first time I ever did this race, this guy was like, "Hey, you're the bow hunter, right?" Because I was trying to raise money for a cause and stuff throughout this race. So like people kind of were aware of that. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm the guy or whatever. I'm raising money for this cause and blah, 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 blah." He's like, "Man, this hill is a bitch, isn't it?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's hard, but I'm used to doing this with a 70-pound pack." And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, bro, there ain't no pack on my back now. Like, we're gonna be here a while." So it's perspective, right? So like, yeah, it's still hard in the moment, but it ain't as hard as what it's gonna be like in the fall. Because I'm gonna be doing the same fucking thing, but I'm gonna have a shit ton of weight on my back, right? I'm gonna be climbing a hill that's just as steep, if not steeper, but I'm gonna have weight on my back. But I'm doing this to prepare for that, you know? So that's where I'm at, brother.
And the other thing about that as well, it's not like you're eating the most optimal foods out there, right?
No,
Like it's not like
you're
you're
not,
optimally.
dude.
It's not like you got like the optimal nutrition to on day 6 of a 7-day hunt. My buddy, for example, when he was 25 days in, he had stopped. He had gone back to town a handful of times to get food because obviously you can only take so much food out there. Um, but it's not like day 24 of the month. It's not like you've been eating steaks and really high quality food. Like you're
Gotcha.
depleted. So I'm excited to give it a try, man. And that's another thing. I need to start rucking because my buddy Dalton, I'd be interested to hear your perspective. He's like, you kind of can't really prepare for it until you do it, and then you kind of have a baseline, right? Because you see how hard it is, and then you actually know what you're training for. So I need to start rucking. I just bought. I also hate running. Like I fucking hate it. I'm a big dude. I'm 6'3", 230. I've never been a runner. But I just bought running shoes for that exact reason because I'm like I need to change something up. I need to uh, get some miles in every day. And my buddy just signed up for an Ironman, so I feel like a bitch.
Yeah, there's so many studies that say like how beneficial and shit that rucking is for you. You know, you got like the Go Ruck packs, or there's all these different types of things. Like what I do is if I want to ruck, I just take my hunting pack, dude, and I just load that shit down with dumbbells and plates, whatever, and just fucking rip it. But when I got hurt and I know it's beneficial, and I'll give you a reason why it's beneficial because I got hurt in January. I messed up my knee really bad as I was trying to train for this 100-miler, and running was pretty much off the table. I couldn't run. So my coach at the time, we eased back into it. We started doing a lot of mobility, and he's like, "Hey, do you have a ruck?" And I was like, "I got a hunting pack." He's like, "Load that thing up 40, 50 pounds, get on the treadmill, and we're going to do these incline workouts on the treadmill with your pack on, 5%, 7%, 13%, 15%." And that didn't bother my knee. It didn't bother my knee at all. Incline work with a pack did not bother my knee at all. And I'm like, shit, I'm still training. Like, it's not how I want to be training, but like, this is still going to benefit me, I think. Long story short, we get to April and I go out for my first run in 4 months and I haven't lost a beat, dude. Like, my cardio, like, I think I ran 10 miles. My first run back, dude, I could have ran all day. So my fitness was still there. If anything, it improved by just rucking. Like, that's all I was doing was walking on an incline with a backpack on a treadmill for months. And that not only healed my knee, but took my endurance and my cardiovascular capacity and just fucking went through the roof. So I can tell you for a fact that that's one of the best forms of cardio that you can do. And it's hard, but it's not like, not as hard as the stair stepper or not as hard as running. But it's very beneficial to you.
Do you have any story from your Western hunting life thus far that sticks out in terms of like it could be anything like a encounter with a predator or just like a moment of immense gratitude, just any like particular memory from Western hunting thus far that sticks out to you as one that's like profoundly ingrained in your mind?
Yeah, I always look at the mistakes, dude. Like, I always look at where I messed up. I can do something right 1,000 times, but if I fuck it up one time, that's what bothers me. And this is just going back to how green I was. And I have my buddy who literally just called me, Kobe Owens. He's a photographer out here in Montana, freelance guy. And we've become pretty good friends. And he came out with me for 12 or 13 days last year in a row and filmed and just had a good time with him. And We hunted together. I was like, dude, I got one rule. And if I ask you a question, don't tell me you don't know. That's my only rule. We're a team. We're brothers. Let's have fun. But I want to work as a team. Like if I ask for your opinion on something, I want you to fucking tell me, even if you don't think I'm going to agree with it. So he's like, let's do a setup. So he's like, you're going to go down here. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to call. And he called this fucking bull in from 500 yards to 3 yards. He almost got ran over by this bull and like these 5 cows. And I remember that because I was bladed off of him like 100 yards to the east when I should have been more in line with him, right? So if he's calling, I need to be in front of him in a line because those bulls can really pick out a call. Like he walked right to the tree that my buddy was hiding under. But I was bladed off too far in one direction. I wasn't in line with my caller, which costed me shooting a 320-inch bull. I mean, period. Like my buddy almost got ran over by this bull. He went right to him, right to the call. And I'm 100 yards the other way, being like, I should be right there. Like I should be right where Kobe is. So I remember that. It's like, dude, if I could fix that mistake, shit, I would have killed my first year ever. Like that's fucking unheard of. Killing a freaking stud bull with a bow your first year. Dude, I would have had it, but it wasn't my time yet. And I remember that. It's like next time I make a setup and I'm out with a guy, don't be bladed off. Be right in line with that guy so you don't make that mistake again and you kill. But I always remember their mistakes, dude. And that's one of them that just chaps my ass so bad.
I'm not certain that it's going to happen this way. Obviously, I can't predict the future, but to me, like you telling that story, I just envision you being in a similar situation and you actively, because this is how learning works. This is how getting better at something works. You being in a similar position saying, oh, wait, I remember when that happened. Let me do this. And then you kill an elk that way. And then the gratitude and the satisfaction that would take place almost doubles because you have that experience where you're like, motherfucker, like I was this close. If I made one decision, it would be a completely different fall. And I spoke to my buddy Dalton about that as well, because it's just, it speaks to elk hunting and the difficulty of it. It's not like you go out for a whitetail hunt and you sit down for fucking, even if you hunt for 7 straight days, you're sitting down, you're doing whatever. You're taking a like full week at that point, really. You're going out there, you're hiking 10 plus miles a day. You're putting so much effort into it. All that to compound to one mistake that you make, making it not come to fruition. So on the other side, you put in all that work, you put in 2, 3, 4, 5 years of work into that, and then it comes to fruition. Like the feelings got to just be like insane, indescribable would be. I can't even imagine how that would feel.
Bro, I'm going to cry. Like I'll tell you straight up right now, when I kill an elk, I'm going to cry. 100% I will, because I've worked my ass off even in the short year and a half, 2 years that I've been able to hunt elk here. And it's one of those things. I just had a conversation with a friend, episode 101 on my podcast with Craig. And what I've learned when I first got out here, I was like, man, I need to get the experience. Like you can't cheat experience. You can't cheat years in the field. Like I need to just put my time in. I need to pay my dues. And eventually, like it's going to happen. I believe that. I do. But putting the time in simply, I don't think is enough. Like, because again, it's time, it's money, it's gas, it's food, it's time away from my business, it's time away from my wife, it's time away from shit that I should be doing at the house. So by me just going out to a trailhead and being like, I'm hunting for 7 days, let's see how it goes, I'm putting the time in, but that's not enough. Like when you get into the positions to execute, you need to fucking execute. Like, period. Like, if you get these opportunities, you need to capitalize on them because they're few and far between. So time, that's a given, right? Like, you obviously have to put the time in. It's what you do when you're putting the time in that matters. Like, you actually have to fucking capitalize. You need to make the right decisions opposed to the wrong decisions. Even though you're putting the time in and you're gaining experience, that's fucking great. But you have to capitalize on these. Don't make the same mistake twice. And that's really my goal this year, is to not make any mistakes that I made last year. And new mistakes, fine, whatever. I mean, that's going to happen. But yeah, I'm putting the time in this year, like I will continue to do for as long as I'm capable of doing this. But with the time that I put in, I also need to capitalize on these opportunities, because I'm always getting opportunities. Like, I'm going to fucking make it happen out there. I'm not out there to play checkers. Like, I'm out here to kill a fucking elk. you know? Like I enjoy the sunsets and the sunrises and all that shit. I bring my camera, have a great time. I enjoy a beer after a long day, whatever. But like when shit hits the fan, I need to be there to capitalize. It's not good enough just to put the time in anymore.
Yeah, it's almost like if you don't capitalize, you mentioned it. Going hunting, there's so many different peripheral benefits, like you mentioned, being out in nature, being with your buddies if you're hunting with them, seeing sunsets, just being immersed in the natural world and movement, like the physical training. But you're out there for a reason, and so
Yes.
just like anything in life, really, if you don't take advantage of your gained experience by capitalizing on the opportunity, that gained experience is in vain, and it's almost
Yeah.
like it's almost dishonorable towards your former self for going through that experience if you don't take advantage of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, what are we doing out here, bro? Like, I want to fucking win. I
Yeah.
want to win. Like, yeah, I'm having a great time. Like, it's nice to have no service and peace and quiet. And maybe you're out there with a buddy and you're just vibing out, having a fucking fantastic time. But I also want to win, dude. Like, I want to achieve the goal, and then I want to set new goals. Like, I want to continue to get better. And time just isn't enough. You have to capitalize, brother. And that, like last year, I was like, I just want to get into elk. Like that'd be awesome. And I did that. Great. I met my goals last year. I knew I wasn't probably going to kill one of them on the first year, dude. I'm not that fucking lucky, and I'm damn sure not that good. Um, but in order to be lucky, you do need to be good. So we have a different set of goals this year because I know I'm going to be into the elk. I know how to fucking find them, and now I want to kill one.
There's also something to be said about hunting specifically. I think that like the goals that we have in life are here and there and whatever, but hunting specifically, I believe, is so ingrained in us specifically as men, like our psyche, our hardwiring, our physiology. It's like literally a part of us. That's what I believe. So that goal, the goal at the end of a hunting trip or a hunting journey, something about it speaks differently to our hearts. Like it just because we're providers, right? Like so man, I'm so pumped for you, dude. I'm getting like goosebumps thinking about it. Because dude, when you kill this elk, you're gonna call your wife and be like, babe, we got meat for a year. Like
All
we're
year.
good. We're fucking good. And I'm like literally getting goosebumps thinking about that experience for you because knowing the work that you've put in, knowing the training that you do year round, knowing the experiences you've had thus far where you were close and maybe made a mistake, it's going to be so gratifying. And like I mentioned, I think hunting specifically, the gratification is just, I don't even know how to describe it to somebody that you obviously know you've killed an animal before, but like for me, whitetail, like the first whitetail that I ever killed that I field dress, I killed, I field dressed, I butchered, I cooked, and I ate. So every single hand was mine. The most gratifying meals I've ever had in my life because
Yes.
something within me, I don't know what it was. I can't put a finger on it, but I think hunting specifically speaks to the heart of men more than just about anything else.
I do, man. And again, it's difficult too. And I don't think it would speak if it was easy, you know? I don't think it would speak to us at all if it was an easy feat. These animals, they have essentially one goal, and it's to survive. And our goal is to outsmart this animal and kill it. Um, and it's hard. It's hard work. So when the pieces do come together, you're like, man, like all the work, all the training, all the time, all the gas money, all the time away from your significant other, like it paid off. Like the only pressure I have when I hunt, dude, is the pressure that I put on myself to try to reach my goal and the fake pressure that I tell myself that my wife puts on me, which she doesn't put any pressure on me, but it's like I want to call her and be like, "Hey, like I'm not just out here on a hike, like I'm out here getting the job done. Like I want her to be waiting for me in the driveway when I get home and I put the tailgate down type of thing. You know what I mean? Like I don't want her to think that I'm just out here fucking off because I'm not. I'm out here to provide and I'm out here to chase a dream and to live this life the best way I know how, which is just consistent work and um that's the only pressure. It's just the dumb pressure that I put on myself and, the fake pressure that I act like my wife has on me, which she doesn't. But I also want to make her proud. I want to make my dad proud too. Like he would kill to be able to come out here and do this shit all the time. And I want to make myself proud. I know I'm capable of doing this, and I can do it and I will. And it'll be so sweet when it happens, dude.
I love looking at hunting through the tribal lens, like I've mentioned Native Americans or like the any tribe really, because you just mentioned you said your dad and your wife, like those are part of your tribe.
Yeah.
and you want to make them proud, because I really do think, like, back in the day, the difference between a tribe surviving and not was the success of their hunters. It's like the success
Yes.
of people like yourself coming back with the food that would then allow the tribe to be nourished and survive. So I think looking at hunting specifically through a tribal lens, I think it's interesting that you just mentioned two people that were not you, that were a part of your tribe that you want to make proud. I think that's also something that's kind of hardwired into us. And obviously we've been talking about hunting for a while. Do you have any one lesson that sticks out to you the most from your hunting experience?
Yeah, I do. And I just talked about this too the other day on my show, and it's embarrassing to say, but I'll say it because I mean that's why we're doing these things and having these conversations. But um, social media put some pressure on me last year, and it was weird because I'm in a little bit of a different position nowadays than I've always been in, where it's like I have people that listen to what I say on a weekly basis, ask me questions that they don't know the answers to, that I try my best to be able to provide them guidance or whatever it might be. Like there's people watching. Um, and whether if I like it or not, like people watch what I do and take to heart some things that I say, and that's all fine and dandy. And I had this opportunity last year. It was November 2nd, my first day out um, hunting muleys. And I was on this knob actually where a year before my dad killed a really nice one. So I went back to the spot because we also saw a couple other nice bucks in there the year before. And it was getting dark. And I saw this really nice buck way across the canyon. And I was like, that's a really good buck, but he was too far and it was damn there dark. I was like, right on, target acquired. I called my dad, went to this bar to grab a bite to eat. I called my dad and I was like, dude, I found him. I found a really good one. He's like, why didn't you kill him? I was like, it's too dark and he was too far away. I was like, but I'm going to go right back in there in the morning and I'm going to kill this deer. Dude, I shit you not. I glassed this deer up, same one, fucking first light at like 330 yards, like right there. He had no idea I was even there. And I'm looking at him through the binos. I'm looking at him through the scope, and I'm like really judging this animal. I'm like, well, his forks on his left side aren't that great. Like, people are gonna think that I like shot like a small deer. Like it's not as big as my buddies that he just posted on the internet, or Levi Morgan just shot a slammer. It's like, well, he also gets paid to hunt, you dickhead. But long story short is I'm putting all this pressure on myself where it's like, is he big enough? And then by the time I was like, yeah, he'll do, I took a shot that wasn't as conducive as an opportunity, or yeah, we'll call it that. It wasn't a great shot opportunity compared to the shot that he offered me 10 minutes before, like the feeding head down broadheaded shot. I took a hard quarter two shot because I was rushing now. I'm like, okay, I want to shoot this deer, but he's like going down into this coulee. Long story fucking short, I missed this deer because I'm second guessing myself about what everybody else is going to think. Dude, that would have been the biggest deer I ever shot in my fucking life. Easily. Like, easily. And I botched it because I got into my own head. What is everybody going to think about me? So when you go out and you're hunting, it's either a yes or it's a no. If it gets you excited, it's a yes. Absolutely. If you see a mule deer and you're like, no, 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 he's too small. It's too small. That's no problem. It's not going to get you excited. If it gets you excited, take the opportunity. Take the opportunity that you've worked for and take advantage of it. And that's what cost me a great deer, is that I got into my own head about like, hey, what is everybody going to think of me? And dude, like if anybody knows me at all, they know that I don't give a fiddler's fuck about what anybody thinks of me. But I had this lapse for like 15 minutes last year where I was so far inside of my own head that I blew a really great opportunity. So my biggest tip is to just do what's right for you. If the animal gets you excited, then it's an animal that you should harvest. Who cares how big it is? If it's big enough for you, or if you worked really hard for it and it's just as good as it's going to get, take the opportunity. Fuck everybody else.
That's a great lesson, and I think that extrapolates to so many different things in life. Because for some people, it might not be hunting. Maybe it's the the job, or like the girl. Maybe it's like a girl that somebody's like, oh, I really like this girl, but like maybe my friends won't think she's hot enough, or you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Everybody's got that girl in the red dress that's kind of like that thing where they're, oh, I don't know if this is gonna like what are my buddies gonna think? Even though like you could say it, like I would consider myself I very rarely find myself thinking about, oh shit, what is my buddy gonna think? But for some reason with hunting, especially like you mentioned with a big buck, there's some external pressure there, especially with social media, especially even
Mhm.
more you being in the hunting space on social media. So I can imagine how that would compound and be kind of a hefty weight to be carrying. But once again, that's a lesson you're going to learn, and I'm sure that you're not going to make that decision based on that again.
It's just so dumb too because the night before he was perfect. Like he was like, if I'd have had a little bit more light, I'd have tried to close the distance a little bit and I would have went and killed this buck. So the night before, he was big enough. I called my dad and I was like, I'm gonna go in the next morning. I'm gonna kill this deer. I'm gonna find him. I'm gonna kill this deer. He's like, call me at 8 when you get him. I called him at 8 and told him I missed. So it's like he was good enough the day before. Why isn't he good enough fucking 12 hours later?
Yeah,
I just had such a lapse in judgment and like this thing took over my mind and I just like totally psyched myself out. That's really never happened to me before where I really was like concerned about like, what is this going to look like to outsiders? Who cares? Who gives a shit? I'm happy. That's all that matters. And like you said, that can be for anything in life. That girl that you find attractive, but your buddies are like, dude, she's a 4. Oh, she's a fucking 9 in my book, bro. Like, you're not with her, I am. It doesn't matter, right? Or, wow, dude, you drive some bullshit truck. Well, I
that's a
love
great.
this truck. It might not be a gasser and it might not pick all the girls up, but like, it's very reliable. Like, just dumb shit like that, where it's like, fuck your opinion, man.
I gotta shout out to my cousin, man. He drives a 2002 Tacoma, and the pride that he takes in this truck, it like invigorates me because you would look at it and most people would be like, unless you like know trucks, it's a cool truck with some nice tires and a nice little cab cover, and it does everything you need to. And also knowing Tacomas, like that thing's gonna last him fucking 20 more years.
Yep.
But it's just so cool because he actually like he had a GMC before, a nice truck. And we were speaking the other day about that exact same thing. He's like, I pull up for the first little bit in that Tacoma, and I felt a little different. It was weird how I even felt it. I was like, wait a second, why do I give a fuck what pulling up to this bar or this restaurant with my friends feels like? I like this truck. It gets me from point A to point B. I can put shit in the bed. Like, what more do I need? For you, it's like that buck. Like, okay, will that buck have fed you? Yep. Was it still a very nice buck? Yep. So it's like, why we do that? I don't know. It's an interesting question to dive into. Why that plays such a heavy role in decision making. And I think also it's worth mentioning for anybody that's never stared an animal through a scope that you're about to pull the trigger on, the amount of, maybe it's the adrenaline going through and like time slows down and starts parsing out a little differently, but like the amount of thoughts that I feel like I've gone through sometimes with an animal in my crosshairs is, it's like exponentially larger amount of thoughts than just like a regular day to day. So you can kind of psych yourself out. That's why I say that, because like you can go through any number of thoughts, like, oh well, what is Jimmy going to say? So, oh, what is Rachel going to say? What is this going to happen? What if I post this? Blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, you know that all of a sudden that broadside shot turns to a quartering away or quartering two, and then you're fucked. So it's one of the many what's the word, many like paradoxical things about hunting. It's like you got to find that middle ground where you can control yourself in the moment and be like within yourself, but also take advantage of that adrenaline and that increased focus and all that stuff. So honestly, now that I say that, and I'm rambling a little bit, but that's also one of the reasons that training is so important, because you get yourself in that high adrenaline, high stress,
Yes.
high heart rate. Because there's any number of stories of motherfuckers like running like you after a bull. Well, what are you going to do when you pull up to that bull and you're like, are you going to be able to put a shot in that's on target, right? So
Yep.
it speaks to the training and putting yourself in that position before you get into the real deal.
Yeah, and it's easy to stray from that. Like I did. Like the night before, I was all about it. Driving there the night or the next morning, I was all about it. And then when push came to shove, I started questioning myself, and I don't know to this day still how that happened. But my wife said something last night. She goes, "If it's not a fuck yes, then it's a no." And I think that you can say that in all regards to life, especially the age that we're at right now, early 30s, late 20s. Everything in your life should be a fuck yes. Like, really, like you need to go through a season in your life of fuck yeses. And if it's not that, then no. Like, I don't care if your feelings are hurt. I don't care what you think. If it's not right for me and mine, then no. And it needs to be extremely right, like a fuck yes.
I love that, man. We only got so much energy we can expend towards things, and there's a book called Essentialism. I don't know if you ever read that or heard of
Mm-mm.
it. That's pretty much what it's about. It's about doing less but better. So it's like we
Yeah.
have all these stimuli. Like we're inundated with stimuli nowadays. So many different opportunities. It's it's enticing. Like that little small opportunity that you would have said yes to 2 years ago. If it's not a fuck yes right now, then it's a no because you have other things that you could expend energy into. The way I like to look at it, and he has a little picture that he drew. Say you have 12 inches of energy. You could expend 12 singular inches in 12 different directions and get 1 inch in 12 different directions. Or you could have one direction you spend 8 inches and then two directions you spend 2 and 2 or something like that. But you see what I'm saying? It's more of
Hmm.
like a delegation of energy in a
Hmm.
more in a more intentional way. And that's what you're speaking about, in my opinion.
Yeah. And you brought up an intentional way. Like you have to be very, especially now with me, man. Like I'm trying to be so intentional with everything that I do. And even now, it's like I'm trying to build a business, I'm trying to run a company, I'm trying to market, I'm trying to network. Like, I reached out to you, what's up, brother? Like now I'm on your podcast and like I think we're gonna be really good friends. But like I have to be very particular on where I give my time to. Like my phone is fucking blowing up right now. I have one, two, three, four. I have 8 text messages right now. And like I might not even get to those by the end of the day because I have other shit that I need to do. And like these are people that are important to me in my life, but it's like I have to delegate my time in specific areas. Like I'm on my phone so much now that I'm trying to build a business where it's like, dude, I wish I could just turn it off, but I need it.
Yeah.
Like I have to have it. Like I fucking hate Instagram, but I need it. So I have to be very particular and like where I delegate my time, this, that, and the other. And it's tough, man. Like you have to really know the direction that you want to go. Do you want to give it all 12 inches or do you want to, give 8 inches here and then the next four the other way kind of thing? So like right where you're saying, like you have to be very particular about um, where you're putting your energy.
To wrap up, like the hunting carousel we've been on, that's probably one of the biggest benefits. My buddy Dalton also speaks on this. Like 7 day hunt is a 7 day excuse to say fuck, not fuck those people, but like I don't have to worry about that, right? Like I don't have service. I'm with a friend or I'm by myself in the wilderness doing one of the most glorious things you can do. So it's like a 7 day excuse to kind of distance yourself, and that space is necessary, like you mentioned.
Yeah, it really grows your appreciation. Like when you've been in the backcountry for 7 days and you come home and turn the sink on and fill your cup up with water, you're like, fuck, that was really cool. Or if you get home and it's a little cold in the house,
Yeah.
you turn the heat up a little bit, 20 minutes, you're warm again. That was really cool. Or you're like, damn, I need to shower. Just go and turn the shower on. Wow, that was really cool. But it puts when you go hunting and you have long nights, early mornings, putting on miles, you're undernourished, like, and then you come home back to everyday life. It really makes you appreciate the things that you do have, regardless if you live in a fucking barn, if you live in an apartment, if you live in a 5,000 square foot house, you're going to appreciate what you have more.
Certainly.
Like it's funny because I was talking to that about my, I was talking about that with my buddy Kobe when we were on that trip last year. And we've been out there for like 12 days, no shower. And we're driving through these little bullshit towns in Montana, like 200 people, like trailers, like real, like not great living conditions. But we're driving to buy these places and be like, bet you they got a shower in there. Like that'd be pretty legit. Like I could probably stay there for the night opposed to the 10 again. So that's one of the huge reasons why I love going out on these trips is it just makes you appreciate life that much more.
I got nothing to add to that, man. That was really well said. I relate to that entirely. And to wrap it up, we're pushing the hour 30 mark here. It's called the Tyro Experience. We spoke about this on the phone, I guess, a little bit, but Tyro means novice or beginner, and stems from the Latin word meaning young soldier, somebody who had just entered the military. And the way that I kind of define it, or what it means to me, is a Tyro is somebody that's in an arena and is walking towards the center of it. They're picking up their sword, they're walking towards the enemy, the fight, whatever that fight is, and they're swinging like they're going down, or they're gonna raise their hands in triumph. So my question to you to round this out is, what arena are you in? What is your fight that you're picking up the sword and walking towards?
Self-improvement, brother. Like, I'm just trying to be better than I was yesterday, and that might be cliche to people, but, like, in all honesty, like, it's for real, and I try to do that with, like, just being an entrepreneur, being a friend, being a mentor to some people, being a husband. Like, I'm trying to be a little bit better in all aspects of my life every day. Every day, like, even, like, with fitness, like, dude, and I'm people can think what they wanna think with this, but, like, I've been saying that I'm in the best shape of my life every day for the past 10 years because I fucking work at it, dude. Like, I'm in better shape today than I was yesterday, and I crushed it yesterday, but I'm gonna crush it again today, and I'm gonna crush it next week and then next month and then next year. So, like, there's no fucking end, dude. Like, you can always perfect your craft and be better at your craft, whatever that is. Like, if you wanna be the best husband, well, you better put the fucking work in to be the best husband that you can be. Like, if you have 2 days at the same level of however you wanna rank yourself at a husband, 2 consecutive days, like, you're not getting any better. Like, I had an old football coach, and you've heard this, everybody has heard this saying, but you're either getting better or you're getting worse, you're never staying the same. So if I didn't improve, I clearly fucking got worse today. So I need to improve. I don't care if it's even a fraction of a percent. And, I do that by putting myself in the arena. I pay the money for a race where it's like, okay, that's the arena now. Let's go play. Let's go play the game. And I give it all that I have in that set arena. Or, like, if my wife and I are having a difficult conversation, that's the fucking arena that I'm in at this moment in time. And I'm trying to do the best that I can in it and communicate and be, thoughtful and what's the word I'm looking for? Shit, I can't
Intentional,
think. Vulnerable is the word I'm looking
vulnerable.
for. Like, I want to be vulnerable. I want to be open. I want to listen to understand, not listen to respond to my wife, which is something that I'm terrible at, but I'm trying to fucking get better at it. So put yourself in those tough positions or the arenas and do your best. And if you come up short, fuck it. You came up short, but at least you gave it your best. And then do it again tomorrow and try to do better than you did the day before.
Well said, man. I think it's simply put, it's about how many times can we lay our head in the pillow and think I'm better than I was when I laid my head on my pillow the day before. And it sounds like that's what you're doing. It's definitely what you're doing with your podcast. It's what you're. I mean, as a mentor, you mentioned um, reaching out to me and getting on the call, coming on the podcast, and sharing your insight and your wisdom. That's an example of you getting better at that and networking and all these things. So I want to extend another thank you and gratitude to you for taking the time to get on an hour call from somebody that just DM'd you on Instagram, coming on the podcast, taking up another hour plus. I want to thank you for dealing with whatever the fuck that was.
I loved that part, bro.
I appreciate your patience through all that. Where can people find you, man?
Yeah, dude. Nock Performance on Instagram. It's just NOCK Performance. That's the Instagram. Hit me up on there. I'm on there more than I should be. Well, I'm on there as much as I need to be to try to build a brand and start a company. And you can also head over to the website, knockperformance.com. Book a call with me if you're looking to get in any type of shape or just lead a more healthier lifestyle, or if you just need some guidance, man. I've been doing this shit for a decade and a half, and now I'm actually certified and stuff, so I do have some credibility, and I know what works. I've tried just about every diet, tried just about every workout. A lot of people are looking for accountability, and that's one thing that I really hone in on my guys is I keep them accountable. So yeah, head on over to the website, knockperformance.com, or Instagram, knockperformance. Shoot me a DM or email, or there's a link on the website to book a call if you're interested and want to talk shop and see if we can't attack some goals together. So
And then obviously the Knock Performance podcast available Spotify,
wherever
Apple.
you find them, brother. Yeah, Apple, Spotify, Podbean. I don't know. I think I'm on just about every platform. Also YouTube. I think that's just Knock Performance too. If you want to look at my ugly mug and my ugly guest, you can head on over there and watch our podcast too. So
Right on. And like I mentioned earlier in the show, you've had some really valuable guests, I think, on there. So it's definitely worth the time. Really good listen, really good production quality. So check that out, man. Thank you
thank
for
you,
coming
brother.
on.
No, brother. Thank you. It's an honor. I always pretty humbled by these when people ask me to come on their show and stuff. So I've done a lot of podcasts, and this was a really good one. So I appreciate the time and you want me to come on. I'm glad I did.
Let's do it again. Hey, next time it'll be after a successful elk harvest.
I would very much like that. Yeah, hopefully in a couple weeks, brother.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. All right, brother.
Thank you.
And with that, I hope y'all enjoyed the conversation with Tyler. Tyler's podcasting and hunting experience combined for some intriguing stories and valuable perspectives. And his eagerness and willingness to lend a hand and share his wisdom with me regarding podcasting specifically is something I'm really appreciative of and grateful for. It's inspiring to me because hopefully at some point I'll be able to do the same thing and share some wisdom that I've gained with a young podcaster that's just trying to make it like he has to me. Connect with Tyler on Instagram at Nock Performance. That's Nock Performance. Listen to the Nock Performance podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And check out his website, nockperformance.com. Once again, that's nockperformance.com. Thank you for being a part of the Tyro experience. Until next time, stand firm in the arena.